The council watched a telepath touch a human, then fear erupted. The council chamber was quiet, the kind of quiet that made everyone aware of their own heartbeat. Light from the high windows fell across the polished floor, bouncing off the walls lined with strange, angular symbols that no human had ever seen. The council members sat in a circle, their eyes fixed on a single figure in the center. That figure was a human. His name was Ethan Miller. He was not like anyone they had ever seen before. Ethan was lean, his skin fair, his hair dark and unkempt, and his eyes a deep brown that seemed to see more than just the surface of things. He had been brought here for observation, a curiosity from a planet far from the Council's core worlds. The Council, made up of alien species with abilities humans could only dream of, had been studying humans for decades, trying to understand their minds, their strength, and their unusual ability to survive in almost any situation. Next to Ethan stood the telepath. Her name was Leela Grant, and she was a member of a species known for their incredible mental powers. Her eyes were a bright, glowing silver, and even from across the room, the council could feel the quiet power that radiated from her. Leela had been chosen to make contact with Ethan because she could sense thoughts and emotions. The council wanted to see how their powers would affect a human mind. Ethan did not flinch. He stood straight, though his hands were slightly trembling. He had been warned about the telepath's abilities, but he had no real way to prepare. He did not understand what the council hoped to find, only that his life, in some strange way, depended on staying calm. Leela stepped forward, her movements smooth and careful. She raised her hand slowly as if reaching for something fragile. Ethan held his gaze steady, unsure what was about to happen. The air in the chamber seemed to grow thicker, charged with energy, almost alive. Then Leela touched his arm. It was a small, simple touch, but when it connected, the council gasped. The moment her fingers met his skin, a wave of sensations rippled through the room. The aliens felt it first: fear, awe, confusion. Thoughts they had never expected began to appear in their minds, images and feelings that were not structured like their own species' thoughts. Ethan's mind was different, wild yet clear, filled with patterns and logic that none of them could follow. Ethan's own mind felt strange. At first he felt nothing but a pressure, as if someone had opened a door in his head that had always been locked. Then came the flood. Memories, emotions, images that were not his own, or maybe they were, but he had never realized they existed. He felt a connection to Leela, to the council, to the chamber itself. He felt everything at once, and yet he was still himself. Leela's face remained calm, but her eyes widened slightly as she sensed the depth of Ethan's mind. She had touched many beings before, but none had responded like this. The human mind was supposed to be simple, fragile, and slow compared to hers, and yet here was Ethan, a human, holding his own against her power, even welcoming it. The council began to murmur among themselves. Their voices were low, almost reverent, but filled with fear. One member, a tall, insected being named Zareth, leaned forward and spoke. He resists, but he does more than resist. He grows. His mind expands in response. Another member, a being with translucent skin and visible veins glowing faintly with inner light, named Kara, shivered. It is impossible. No species can withstand a telepath like Leela. Yet he adapts. He changes. Ethan felt the council's fear, not just as an observer, but as a presence pressing on him. He realized then that their fear was not just of him, but of what he represented. Something about humans was different. Something the council had not anticipated, something they had underestimated for centuries. He tried to pull away, but it was not fear that kept him still. It was curiosity. He wanted to understand this power, this strange connection he felt to Leela. And more than that, he wanted to show them that he was not weak. Leela's hand did not move. She stayed where she was, letting the connection grow. She could feel Ethan's mind like a vast, uncharted territory. Thoughts were not arranged in the neat, predictable patterns she knew from other species. They were chaotic, full of contradictions, yet somehow harmonious. Fear and courage existed side by side. Pain and joy mingled, love and hatred intertwined. It was like standing at the edge of a storm and seeing the sun shine through it at the same time. The council's whispers grew louder, though none dared to interrupt the moment directly. They had seen humans before. They had studied them, poked them, tested them in ways that would break other species. And yet, time and again, humans had survived. Time and again, humans had adapted. Time and again, humans had risen when all odds were against them. Now, in this chamber, they realized something even more terrifying. Humans were not just survivors. Humans were unknown. Humans were a force that could not be measured, predicted, or contained. Ethan felt Leela's curiosity and surprise, and it made him smile faintly. He had learned a long time ago that humans had a strange way of understanding the world, not through strength or speed, but through endurance, adaptability, and something deeper, an instinct that told them they could survive no matter what. The council had underestimated him. They had thought this simple human could be a specimen, a curiosity, something to study. They had not expected him to respond to Leela's telepathy with clarity and force, to show an inner strength that none of them had anticipated. Zareth leaned back in his chair, his multiple eyes narrowing. She cannot control him. He is different, too strong in ways we cannot measure. Kara's voice was almost a whisper, trembling with awe. It is frightening. He is more than a human. He is everything a human can be, and more. Ethan felt their fear, but he did not understand it fully. Humans had faced danger for millennia. Humans had survived plagues, wars, and disasters that had wiped out entire civilizations. They had built, destroyed, and rebuilt. And somehow, someway, they had always endured. What these aliens did not realize was that endurance was only the beginning. Humans did not just survive, they evolved. Leela's hand finally lifted, and the connection ended. The room seemed quieter suddenly, as if a storm had passed. Ethan blinked, feeling a slight dizziness from the intensity of the connection. He looked around at the council, seeing their wide eyes and whispered murmurs. He understood their fear now. It was not just fear of him. It was fear of the unknown. And humans, by their very nature, were unknown to everyone else. Leela stepped back, studying him with a new respect. You are not like anyone I have ever touched. You are more than a human. I do not understand, but I see now why the council watches you. Ethan shrugged lightly, though he felt the weight of their gaze pressing on him. I am just me, he said simply, though even he knew it was not that simple. Humans were more than the sum of their parts. Humans could endure, adapt, and grow in ways that defied expectation. Zareth cleared his throat, trying to regain composure. We must study this further. He cannot be allowed to go untested. The implications are enormous. Ethan realized then that this was only the beginning. Whatever plans the council had, whatever experiments they had imagined, he had changed the rules simply by existing. By standing in that chamber, by surviving the touch of a telepath, he had reminded them that humans could not be contained. Humans could not be understood easily. And humans could not be underestimated. He felt a quiet thrill at this realization. Fear existed in the council, yes, but for Ethan, there was also a spark of hope. Humans had survived against impossible odds before. And now, in the presence of these beings, humans would survive again. The chamber doors opened suddenly, and new observers entered. They were aliens of other species, curious and cautious, their eyes flicking between Ethan and Leela. Ethan straightened instinctively. He was being watched, judged, analyzed. But he did not feel fear. Fear was a human weakness only if one let it control them. Ethan had learned long ago that fear could be turned into focus, into clarity, into power. As the observers settled, the council chair, an elder named Solon, spoke in a low, resonant voice. "We have underestimated humans. This human in particular is remarkable. Leela, you have confirmed what we suspected, but even we did not expect this. We must proceed carefully. Humans are unpredictable, dangerous even if left unchecked." Ethan listened, and for the first time he allowed a small smile. Dangerous. He liked the sound of that. Humans had always been called dangerous by others. Dangerous to themselves, dangerous to others, dangerous to the natural order. And yet, dangerous was simply another way of saying powerful, in a subtle, quiet way that only humans could embody. The council would learn soon enough. Humans were not just simple creatures to be watched. Humans were a force in the galaxy. And Ethan Miller, standing in the center of the chamber, was a reminder of that truth. The session ended, but the echoes of what had happened lingered in the chamber. Aliens whispered, telepaths speculated, and the council debated. One thing was certain: the simple act of a telepath touching a human had changed everything. Ethan walked out of the chamber with calm, measured steps. He did not yet know what awaited him, or what tests the council would impose next. But he understood something essential. Humans could never be controlled, never truly understood, and never, ever underestimated. Outside, the air was cool and dry. He took a deep breath, feeling the sun warm his face. Humans survived, humans adapted, humans endured. And in that moment, Ethan felt a quiet pride in belonging to a species that even the greatest minds in the galaxy could not fully comprehend. It was a small victory, but for humans, small victories always became something greater. And somewhere deep in his mind, Ethan knew that this encounter was just the first step of a journey that would shake the galaxy, not with war or destruction, but with the quiet, unyielding power of humanity itself. The council did not rest after the chamber session. Instead, they called a meeting with their top strategists and observers. Every species present had felt the shock of Ethan Miller's mind. He had withstood the telepath's touch and, in some ways, had even reached beyond it. For most beings, that would have been impossible. For humans, it seemed ordinary. Ethan was unaware of the council's full plans. He only knew that his time among them was far from over. After the session, he had been escorted to a room that overlooked the council chamber. The room was plain, with white walls and a soft floor that made his steps almost silent. Large windows stretched from floor to ceiling, showing the endless city beyond the council's palace. Flying vehicles moved like slow, shimmering fish above the streets. Alien beings went about their business, unaware of the small drama unfolding above them. A soft chime announced the entrance of his new guide. Her name was Clara Benson, a human who had lived among the council for many years. She had been chosen as a liaison, someone to explain the strange rules and customs to Ethan. Clara was older than Ethan, with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. She moved with quiet confidence, her expression calm and reassuring. "You're awake," she said simply. Her voice was steady, neutral, but there was a hint of concern beneath it. "You slept a long time after the session." Ethan rubbed his eyes. "It was intense. I felt like someone had opened my mind and poured in every possible thought at once." "I'm not sure I even understood half of it," Clara nodded slowly. "That's understandable. The council is cautious. You are not like anything they expected, and now they are planning something new. They want to understand how humans survive, adapt, and think." "You are their test case," Ethan frowned. "A test case? I thought they were just observing me. Now it feels like I'm a lab animal." Clara smiled faintly, though it did not reach her eyes. "You're not a lab animal, Ethan, but yes, they will observe and they will challenge you. The council doesn't know what humans are capable of. They are afraid of what they cannot control. That's why they are being careful but also relentless." Ethan stood, stretching slightly. "Then I guess I better be ready. Whatever they throw at me, I'll handle it." Clara raised an eyebrow. "We'll see. Humans are clever, yes, but cleverness alone won't be enough here. The council will push every limit, physical, mental, even emotional. They want to know what makes you different. A soft knock at the door interrupted them. Clara opened it and two aliens entered. One was tall and muscular, with gray skin and four eyes that blinked in sequence. The other was smaller, insect-like, with delicate wings that shimmered faintly. Both wore the council's uniform, signaling authority. "You will come with us," the taller one said. His voice was deep, resonant, and slightly intimidating. "The council has decided to continue the observation. Do not resist. Any attempt to refuse will be considered unusual." Ethan nodded. He had learned long ago that resistance was sometimes the fastest way to trouble. He followed them without complaint, walking through the long corridors of the council palace. Every step echoed faintly, a reminder of how foreign this place was. Finally, they reached a large chamber unlike the council room. It was circular, with walls made of a translucent material. The floor was smooth and unmarked, and at the center was a small platform. The chamber was empty, silent, and filled with a faint hum that seemed to vibrate in Ethan's chest. "You will stand there," the insect-like alien said, pointing to the platform. "Your abilities, your reactions will be tested. The council wants to see the human mind in action. Do not underestimate the process." Ethan stepped onto the platform. It felt solid but slightly warm beneath his feet. He looked around, noticing cameras, sensors, and strange devices that glowed faintly. It was clear this was more than observation, it was experimentation. Leela Grant appeared suddenly at the edge of the chamber. Her silver eyes glowed softly, and she gave Ethan a nod. "This will be different," she said. "They want to see not only your mind, but your instincts, your reflexes, your limits. Be prepared. It may be uncomfortable, even painful." Ethan's heart beat faster, but he straightened. "I've been through worse. Let's do this." The insect-like alien pressed a button and the chamber changed. The walls shimmered, then disappeared, revealing a vast alien landscape. Mountains rose in the distance, jagged and black, with rivers of strange glowing liquid flowing between them. The sky was a deep red, and twin suns cast harsh shadows. The council had created a world, a test environment, and it was designed to challenge everything a human might face. Ethan looked around, taking in the harsh terrain. His mind worked quickly. Survival would not be easy here. The air felt thin, and he could sense predators, large and dangerous, moving in the distance. Sensors monitored every step he took, recording reactions, reflexes, and decisions. The insect-like alien spoke again. "Your first challenge begins. Reach the other side of the valley. Do not die, the council is watching." Ethan's pulse quickened. He took a deep breath and began moving. His first steps were cautious, but he quickly adapted to the uneven terrain. Humans had evolved to survive in harsh environments, and instincts ran deep in his blood. Every step was deliberate, every movement calculated. He felt the pressure of the observation, but it did not overwhelm him. Instead, it sharpened his senses. From the shadows, predators emerged. Large, four-legged creatures with armored skin and glowing eyes. They were fast, powerful, and clearly dangerous. Most beings would freeze, but Ethan did not. He assessed their movements, timing his steps, dodging when necessary, using the terrain to his advantage. One predator lunged, but he rolled, narrowly avoiding a snapping jaw, then used a fallen boulder to block its path. The council watched in awe. They had expected fear, panic, or failure. Instead, they saw control, awareness, and adaptability. Ethan's mind worked differently. He did not think in the strict, linear patterns that the council understood. He reacted, adjusted, and learned all at once. Leela's presence was at the edge of his mind, a guiding force he did not fully understand. He could feel her curiosity and surprise as he moved. "Remarkable," she whispered almost to herself. "He is beyond expectation. The human mind, it learns too fast, it adapts too well." Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Ethan encountered traps designed to test his intelligence, creatures that tested his strength, and puzzles that tested his memory and logic. Each challenge was difficult, but he overcame them. He relied on instincts, observation, and the quiet, unyielding determination that humans carried inside them. The Council's fear grew with every success. This human was not just surviving, he was excelling. Every failed expectation became evidence of something far greater than they had imagined. Zareth, the insectoid, whispered to Kara, "We may have misjudged humans. Entirely. He is not just resilient. He is evolution in motion." At one point, Ethan faced a narrow canyon, the walls slick and steep. At the bottom, a river of the glowing liquid roared like a living thing. Sensors indicated a high risk of injury or death. Most beings would hesitate, unable to act, but Ethan did not. He examined the walls, testing handholds, feeling the texture of the rock. He calculated angles and leverage in a fraction of a second. Then he jumped, grabbed a ledge, swung, and climbed, all in fluid motion. The Council gasped collectively. Never before had a human performed with such precision under observation. Never before had a being been able to combine intellect, instinct, and courage so seamlessly. It was terrifying. Finally, after hours of grueling tests, Ethan reached the other side of the valley. His body was tired, scratched, and bruised, but his mind was sharper than ever. He stood on a plateau, looking back at the harsh landscape he had conquered. It was not just a victory, it was proof of what humans could do when pushed beyond limits. Leela appeared beside him. "You've done more than survive," she said quietly. "You've proven something no one expected. The Council may not understand it yet, but they will fear it. They will fear you." Ethan looked at her, a faint smile on his face. "Fear is natural, I don't mind. Humans have survived fear before, we've survived worse." Leela nodded slowly. "Yes, but this is different. This is not just survival. You are remarkable, and they do not yet see the full measure of it." The insect-like alien returned to escort him back to the Council Palace. "You have completed the first stage. The Council is unsettled. They will consider next steps carefully. Prepare yourself. The challenges will not end here." Ethan walked silently, feeling the weight of observation but also the quiet thrill of achievement. Humans had always faced impossible odds and survived. Humans had always adapted, learned, and evolved. And now, in the heart of the galaxy, observed by the most powerful beings in existence, he had proven that human potential was not limited. The Council would learn, sooner or later, that humans were not just survivors. Humans were unstoppable. Ethan stepped into the quiet room overlooking the Council Palace once more. He was tired, but he felt alive. The tests had shown something essential. Humans were not predictable. Humans were not controlled. Humans were beyond expectation. And the galaxy was about to discover it. After his first trial, Ethan returned to his room, but sleep did not come easily. The events in the alien test chamber played in his mind over and over, like a strange dream that felt more real than reality. The predators, the traps, the glowing rivers, all of it had tested his body and his mind in ways he had never imagined. And yet he was not afraid. Humans had a strange way of facing fear. They did not let it control them. Instead, they used it. Clara Benson arrived quietly. She had brought a tray with food, simple yet nutritious. Ethan appreciated the gesture. "You did well today," she said softly. "The Council is unsettled. They expected failure. They expected fear. They got neither. You've shown them something they cannot easily explain." Ethan sat down and ate slowly. "I only did what any human would do. You survive, you adapt, you find a way, that's all." Clara shook her head. "No, humans do that, yes, but you are different. You react faster, think faster, and yet stay calm. The Council has never seen anything like it. They are frightened of what you represent." Ethan paused, considering her words. Frightened of me, I'm just a person. I don't even know what they really expect me to do next. Clara smiled faintly. That is the point. They do not know, they do not understand humans, and that is why they fear us. Not just you, Ethan, but all humans. You are unpredictable, unmeasurable. The council will push harder, much harder. Ethan nodded. He had learned long ago that humans often faced impossible odds. And more often than not, they survived, even when no one expected it. That knowledge brought a quiet confidence, a calm determination that no council, no alien could take away. The next morning, the insect-like alien returned, along with a team of observers. Your second stage begins today, it said. It will not be easy. The council wishes to see how humans react under psychological pressure as well as physical threat. Every moment will be monitored. Ethan followed them silently. His mind was clear, his senses alert. He had survived the first test, and he had no intention of failing the next. The chamber transformed once more. This time the landscape was not physical but mental. The walls disappeared, replaced by a shifting maze of lights and illusions. Shadows moved in impossible patterns and voices whispered from nowhere. The floor beneath him changed constantly, rising, falling, twisting. This was a test of perception, memory, and instinct. Ethan moved carefully at first. He could feel the chamber trying to confuse him, disorient him, make him doubt what he saw and heard. But humans had a natural ability to focus under stress. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and let his instincts guide him. The illusions attacked him from every direction. A door that seemed real vanished when he reached for it. Shadows that looked like predators turned into harmless images. Voices whispered doubts and fears, trying to weaken his resolve. But Ethan ignored them. He relied on observation, reasoning, and his unshakable will. Every step he took was deliberate, every decision calculated. The council watched in growing alarm. Humans, they had assumed, could be frightened, could be manipulated, could be controlled with mental pressure. But Ethan was different. He did not panic, he did not give in. He adapted. The maze changed, the illusions shifted, but he adjusted immediately, finding patterns where none seemed to exist. Leela Grant observed silently from the side. Her silver eyes glowed faintly as she whispered to herself, How does he do this? No one withstands a mind test like this. No one adapts this quickly. He is not just human, he is something else entirely. Hours passed, though time felt strange in the shifting chamber. Ethan moved through impossible corridors, avoided traps, and solved puzzles that would have confounded most beings. At one point, a shadow lunged at him. He jumped, rolled, and struck back instinctively. The motion was perfect, precise, and controlled. The shadow dissipated, leaving him standing, calm and alert. The insect-like alien monitoring him whispered urgently to the observers. This is unprecedented. He is not just surviving, he is mastering the test. He anticipates changes before they happen. The human mind, it thinks in ways we cannot predict. Ethan reached a central point in the maze, a small platform that glowed faintly under his feet. A soft hum filled the air. He could feel the observation devices monitoring his heartbeat, his brain waves, even his thoughts. And yet he felt no fear. Humans had a strange strength. They could endure uncertainty and danger without panic. They could see chaos and find order in it. Suddenly, a voice filled the chamber. It was Solon, the council elder. Human, you have done well. But we will now test your limits further. Not just your body or mind, but your capacity to make choices that affect others. The next stage will involve life and death. Ethan froze for a moment. Life and death. He had faced danger before, but now the stakes were higher. Not just his life, but the lives of others might be involved. Yet he did not hesitate. Humans had faced impossible odds before. Humans had always survived, and humans had always found ways to protect others. The chamber shifted again. The illusions faded, replaced by a battlefield. Strange creatures moved in groups, some attacking each other, some fleeing. At the center were beings resembling humans but smaller, weaker. They were trapped, cornered by predators. Ethan could feel their fear, their desperation. Clara's voice echoed softly in his mind, a connection humans had learned to feel instinctively. "You can help them, Ethan. You know how." Ethan nodded. His instincts took over. He moved quickly, analyzing the battlefield. He spotted weak points, safe paths, and potential tools. Using fallen objects, he created barriers, distractions, and paths for the weaker beings to escape. Every action was precise, efficient, and effective. The council watched in shock. They had assumed humans would panic, hesitate, or fail. Instead, Ethan coordinated the chaos, thinking faster than the predators, faster than the traps, faster than the illusions. He saved every being he could, moving with a calm, relentless determination. Leela Grant's silver eyes widened. He is astonishing, not just survival, not just intelligence. He protects others while under extreme pressure. The human instinct, it is not selfish. It is extraordinary. Hours passed again, though it felt like minutes. Ethan's body was tired, but his mind was sharper than ever. He had adapted to the shifting battlefield, rescued the trapped beings, and outsmarted every predator and trap. The Council's fear grew with every success. Humans were not just unpredictable, they were unstoppable. Finally, the battlefield dissolved. The chamber returned to its original state, and Ethan stood alone, breathing heavily but unbroken. The insect-like alien approached, its expression unreadable. "You have completed the second stage. The Council is concerned. They did not anticipate this." "Humans are remarkable." Ethan looked around, calm but alert. "I did what anyone would do. I survived. I adapted. I helped where I could, that's all." Clara stepped forward, her expression soft. "It is never just survival with you, Ethan. Humans, you're kind, you go beyond that. You adapt, yes, but you also rise. You think, you feel, you protect. You are extraordinary." Ethan nodded. He had learned long ago that humans were capable of more than any observer could imagine. And now, in the heart of the galaxy, observed by the most powerful beings, he had proven it again. The Council would meet tonight. They would discuss the results. They would worry, debate, and fear. They would realize that humans were not just resilient. They were a force they could not control, could not measure, and could not underestimate. Ethan returned to his room, exhausted but alive. He had faced impossible challenges and come through stronger. He had endured the tests, adapted to chaos, and protected others. Humans had always done that. Humans had always risen when others fell, and humans would always endure. Outside the window, the alien city continued its quiet rhythm, unaware of the small human who had changed the Council's perception forever. Ethan looked at the horizon, feeling a quiet pride. Fear, danger, uncertainty, these were things humans had faced for millennia. And humans had always overcome them. The Council would learn, sooner or later, that humans were not just survivors. Humans were evolution, determination, and power in one form, and Ethan Miller was a reminder of that truth. The galaxy had not yet seen the full measure of humanity, and when it did, everything would change. The Council was in chaos. Their sessions lasted late into the night, filled with heated discussion, whispers, and urgent decisions. Ethan Miller had survived not one, but two extreme trials. Not only had he endured impossible physical challenges, he had also adapted to mental and psychological tests that no other species could withstand. The Council members were frightened, and their fear was growing. Humans, they realized, were not predictable. Humans were not controllable. Humans were something else entirely. Solon, the Council elder, paced back and forth in his chamber. His voice, calm but tense, carried to the other members. "We underestimated him. Twice. The first stage showed resilience. The second stage showed intelligence, adaptability, even empathy. This human, we cannot measure him. Zareth, the insectoid member, tapped his multiple fingers against the table. It is not just that he survived. He thrives under conditions that would break us. He anticipates, he adapts, he protects. He is evolution in motion. We are dealing with something beyond our understanding. Kara, the glowing, translucent being, shook her head slowly. We must escalate. If we do not push him further, we will never know the full extent of his abilities. But I am concerned. Humans have a strange strength. They endure, they rise. If we push too hard, we may trigger something unexpected. The council agreed. They would create a final stage, a high-stakes trial that combined everything humans had ever faced: physical danger, mental pressure, and moral choice. If Ethan survived this, the council would have no choice but to respect the true power of humanity. The next morning, Ethan was awakened by a soft chime. Clara Benson was already waiting. She looked tired, but her green eyes were focused. "Ethan," she said softly, "the council has decided. You will face the final stage today. It is unlike anything before. The test will challenge every part of you. Be ready." Ethan nodded, his jaw set. "I'm ready. Whatever it is, I can handle it. Humans always find a way." Clara gave a faint smile. "Yes, that is why you are remarkable, but be careful. This trial will test more than skill or instinct. It will test your choices, your mind, your spirit." Ethan followed the insect-like alien and a team of observers to the test chamber. The platform shimmered, as it always did, then transformed into a vast, alien battlefield. But this time the environment was extreme. The sky was dark, filled with swirling storm clouds that crackled with energy. Rivers of molten rock cut through jagged terrain. Creatures of enormous size roamed freely, hunting with terrifying intelligence. The air was thick with heat and strange gases that burned the lungs. Ethan took a deep breath. He had faced harsh conditions before, but this was on another level entirely. His instincts told him to move carefully, but his mind worked fast, analyzing every detail. Every shadow could hide a predator. Every river could be a trap. Every step could be fatal. A voice echoed through the chamber. "Human, the final stage begins. Survive, adapt, and choose. The council watches your every action. You may save your life, but you may also choose to save others. Your choices will define your worth." Ethan felt a surge of adrenaline. Humans were not just survivors. They were leaders, protectors, and thinkers. He did not hesitate. He moved forward, scanning the landscape, assessing threats and searching for those in need. From the distance, he saw a group of smaller creatures trapped on a cliff, cornered by a massive predator. The creature's scales shimmered in the dark light, its jaws large and deadly. Most beings would run, avoid the danger, or freeze, but Ethan did not. He thought quickly. He grabbed a large rock and hurled it, distracting the predator just long enough for the trapped creatures to escape. Then he climbed to a safe vantage point, ready to act again if needed. The council watched in awe. They had never seen a being act so decisively under pressure. Humans, they realized, were not just intelligent, they were instinctively brilliant. Ethan combined strategy, reflex, and foresight in a way no other species could match. The battlefield shifted suddenly. Lava surged from the rivers, cutting off paths and creating new dangers. Enormous predators emerged, faster and more cunning than before. Traps, illusions, and collapsing terrain forced Ethan to think and move simultaneously. He dodged falling debris, leaped across molten rivers, and used the environment to his advantage. At one point, he found himself facing a chasm too wide to jump. On the other side, a group of beings called for help. Ethan's mind worked fast. He found a long, sturdy branch and tested its strength. It held. He used it as a bridge, carefully inching across, guiding the weaker beings to safety. Leela Grant observed quietly from the edge. Her silver eyes glowed faintly as she whispered, "He is extraordinary. Not just strength or intelligence, but empathy. He values others while surviving himself. That is remarkable." Ethan moved deeper into the battlefield, encountering more threats. Some creatures attacked in packs, coordinated and intelligent. Others were solitary predators waiting to ambush. The terrain was unpredictable, with sudden drops, shifting rocks, and bursts of fire. And yet Ethan adapted. His body moved fluidly, avoiding danger while calculating paths, timing, and risks. The council grew tense. They had expected fear, hesitation, or failure. Instead, they saw control, confidence, and a calm focus that defied understanding. Humans, they realized, could survive against impossible odds and still care for others. Humans could lead, adapt, and inspire without even trying. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Ethan's body was tired, scratched, and bruised, but his mind remained sharp. He had rescued countless beings, avoided countless dangers, and solved impossible problems instinctively. The council whispered among themselves, fear and admiration mixing in equal measure. Finally, Ethan reached the center of the battlefield. There, the final challenge awaited. A massive, intelligent predator blocked the path forward. Its size was immense, its eyes glowed with cunning, and its movements were precise. It was the apex threat, designed to test every skill Ethan had. Ethan assessed the predator. Running was not an option. Fighting head-on was too dangerous. He needed a plan. Using his surroundings, he lured the predator toward a cliffside, baiting it with careful movements. When the creature lunged, he jumped to the side, causing it to lose balance and fall into a molten river. The roar of the predator echoed, then was silenced. The council gasped. Never before had a being outsmarted a creature designed to be unbeatable. Humans, they realized, were not just survivors. They were inventors, strategists, and leaders in ways the galaxy had never seen. Leela stepped forward. He has done it. Every challenge, every test, and yet he adapts, overcomes, and protects others. The Council must recognize the truth. Humans cannot be underestimated. Ethan stood at the center, breathing heavily but composed. He had faced impossible danger, mental pressure, and moral choices. He had survived, adapted, and helped others. He had proven something essential. Humans were not weak, fragile, or simple. Humans were strong, adaptable, and capable of greatness beyond understanding. The insect-like alien approached cautiously. "You have completed the final stage. The Council is in agreement. Humans are extraordinary. We underestimated you. We must reconsider everything." Ethan nodded quietly. "I am just a human, but humans, we survive. We adapt. We help where we can. We rise, that's all." Clara Benson smiled. "It is more than all, Ethan. You have shown them who we are. You have shown them that humans are not just another species. Humans are unstoppable." The Council convened immediately. They debated long into the night, discussing the results of the final stage. Solon spoke with a tone that mixed awe and fear. "We have witnessed what no other species could endure. This human represents the potential of all humans. We cannot contain it, we cannot predict it, and we cannot underestimate it. Humans are different. They are evolution, determination, and power in one form." Zareth leaned forward, his multiple eyes blinking rapidly. "We have tested him to the limits, yet he rises every time. He adapts, he survives, and he protects others. Humans are beyond comprehension." Kara nodded slowly. "We must respect this. Not just him, but all humans. We cannot continue with fear alone. We must understand them, and we must recognize their strength." Ethan returned to his room once more, exhausted but proud. He had faced the ultimate challenge and survived. He had proven that humans were more than what the Council expected. They were adaptable, resilient, compassionate, and brilliant. Humans were not just survivors. They were a force the galaxy could not ignore. Outside, the alien city continued its rhythm, unaware of the small human who had changed the Council's perception forever. Ethan looked at the horizon, feeling a quiet pride. Humans had always risen in the face of impossible odds. Humans had always survived, adapted, and thrived. and the galaxy would learn, sooner or later, that humans were not just survivors. Humans were unstoppable. The council gathered early the next day. The atmosphere was tense, a mixture of fear, respect, and uncertainty. The previous trials had changed everything. Ethan Miller had not only survived, he had thrived. He had adapted to impossible challenges, outsmarted predators, solved mental puzzles, and even protected others while under extreme stress. The council members now faced a truth they could no longer ignore. Humans were extraordinary. Solon the Elder stood at the center of the chamber. His voice carried authority, but it was tinged with caution. The trials have concluded. The human has surpassed every expectation. He has survived challenges no other species could face. He has demonstrated intelligence, courage, and compassion beyond measure. The council must now decide how to proceed. Zareth, the insectoid, spoke next. We underestimated humans. Not just this human, but all humans. They adapt. They endure. They rise when others fall. We have tested him, pushed him to the edge, and he has proven that humans are not simply resilient, they are evolution in motion. Kara, the translucent being, nodded slowly. He is more than we anticipated. He is clever, resourceful, and brave, but most importantly, he inspires. He shows that humans can do what no one else can, and for that reason we must respect them. Ethan had been brought into the chamber for the council's final discussion. He stood silently, observing the council members as they whispered and debated among themselves. He had learned a long time ago that humans often faced uncertainty with calm and determination, and now he waited. Leela Grant stepped forward. Her silver eyes glowed faintly. He is not just remarkable, she said. He is proof. Proof that humans cannot be underestimated, controlled, or fully understood. The council must acknowledge this. Humans are extraordinary. The council fell silent. For a moment it seemed as if the room itself held its breath. Then Solon spoke again. We have observed enough. The trials are complete. Ethan Miller, you have proven that humans are more than what we expected. Not only do you survive, but you thrive. Not only do you think, but you lead. Not only do you endure, but you inspire. Humans are not simple creatures. Humans are a force that cannot be measured or contained. Ethan felt a quiet pride. He had survived impossible trials, faced predators, mental challenges, and moral dilemmas, and had come through stronger than ever. Humans had always risen in the face of danger, always adapted, and always endured. And now the council had no choice but to acknowledge it. One of the council members, a small, bird-like being named Vera, stepped forward. We have tested this human extensively. We have pushed him to limits no other species could endure. Yet he continues to rise. We cannot contain him. We cannot predict him. We cannot control him. Humans are unstoppable. Solon nodded. You speak truth, Vera. The council has learned a vital lesson. Humans cannot be underestimated. Humans cannot be dismissed. Humans are a force of nature in their own right, and it is time we recognize that. Ethan stepped forward, his calm confidence filling the room. I am just one human, he said quietly, but humans, we survive. We adapt, we protect each other, we rise even when the odds are against us. That is who we are, that is what humans have always been. The council members looked at him in awe. They had seen the trials, analyzed the data, observed his actions, and yet nothing could fully explain what they had witnessed. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were unmeasurable. Humans were powerful in ways the council could not comprehend. Leela Grant moved closer to Ethan. You have proven something vital, she said. Not just your abilities, but the potential of your species. The council must recognize this. The galaxy must recognize this. Humans are extraordinary, Ethan nodded. Then let them watch. Let them see what humans can do. We do not seek to dominate, but we will endure. We will adapt. We will rise. That is all we ask. The council deliberated long into the day. They debated the implications of Ethan's survival, the intelligence he had shown, and the compassion he had demonstrated under pressure. Finally, Solon spoke. The Council recognizes the truth. Humans cannot be underestimated. Humans cannot be controlled. Humans are a force of life and evolution in the galaxy. We will no longer consider humans as simple subjects for study. We will observe them with respect. We will acknowledge their strength, their intelligence, and their capacity to endure. Humans are remarkable. A soft murmur of agreement ran through the chamber. Even those who had doubted, feared, or underestimated humans could not deny the truth. Ethan had shown them the full measure of what it meant to be human. Clara Benson stepped forward, her expression calm but proud. "Ethan," she said softly, "you have not just survived. You have changed the way the Council sees humans. You have shown them what we have always known. Humans are strong, humans endure, humans rise." Ethan smiled faintly. "I only did what any human would do. We survive, we adapt, we help each other, and we rise, that's all." Zareth, the insectoid, spoke again. "We must consider the future. Humans cannot be controlled, but they can be allies. They can teach us. They can show us resilience, ingenuity, and courage. Perhaps it is time the Council learns from humans rather than fearing them." Kara nodded slowly. "Yes, humans have shown us their worth. They are not just another species. They are a force to be reckoned with, and it is time we accept that truth." Solon looked at Ethan, then at the Council members. "The trials are complete. The Council acknowledges the human species as extraordinary. We will no longer underestimate them. We will no longer attempt to control them. Humans have proven themselves capable of survival, intelligence, and leadership beyond any other species we have observed." Ethan felt a quiet satisfaction. For centuries, humans had been underestimated. Aliens had assumed humans were weak, fragile, or simple, and yet humans had endured, adapted, and risen above impossible odds. Now, the Council had no choice but to recognize it. Outside the Council chamber, the alien city moved on, unaware of the small human who had changed the course of history. But Ethan knew that the impact of his trials would ripple across the galaxy. The Council would now speak of humans with respect, caution, and admiration. They would tell other species that humans were not to be underestimated. Leela Grant approached Ethan once more. "You have done more than survive. You have inspired. You have changed perceptions. Humans will be remembered not for weakness but for strength, courage, and ingenuity. You are a symbol of your species." Ethan nodded. "I am proud to be human. We endure, we adapt, we rise. That is who we are. That is what humans have always done." The Council convened one final time to announce their decision publicly. Representatives from every species attended. Solon addressed the assembly. "Today, the Council acknowledges a vital truth. Humans are extraordinary. Their abilities, resilience, and intelligence cannot be underestimated. We have observed one human, Ethan Miller, and through his actions, we recognize the potential of all humans. They endure, they adapt, and they rise against every challenge. From this day forward, humans will be respected across the galaxy. Their strength and courage are a lesson to us all." The assembly fell silent. Then, slowly, murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Species that had doubted humans, feared them, or dismissed them could no longer ignore the truth. Humans were powerful, adaptable, and unstoppable. Ethan stepped forward. He did not speak loudly, but his presence commanded attention. "I am one human, but humans, we endure. We adapt, we protect each other, we rise. That is all we ask. That is who we are." Clara Benson stood beside him, her green eyes shining. "You have shown them what we have always known. Humans are remarkable, and now the galaxy knows it too." Outside the Council chamber, the sun rose over the alien city, casting light on a world that had just begun to understand the power of humanity. Ethan Miller walked calmly, quietly proud. He had survived impossible trials, faced predators, solved puzzles, and made choices that tested the very essence of his being. He had proven that humans were more than other species expected. The Council would never forget. The galaxy would never forget. Humans had endured, adapted, and risen. Humans were not just survivors. They were a force the universe could not ignore. And Ethan knew that this was only the beginning. Humans would continue to rise, adapt, and endure, no matter the challenges ahead. The galaxy had seen just one human, but it had glimpsed the potential of an entire species. And that potential was limitless.